Hi everyone, my name is Elise Bylowski, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Berenstain Bear books. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper look into the books themselves and the authors. By show of hands, how many people have heard of the Berenstain Bear books? So quite a few. By show of hands, how many of you have actually read some of their books? So quite a few. I myself, I know I grew up with having these books within my classrooms and within my house at home, so I'm very familiar with them, and I can see as a lot of you are too. So we're going to take a deeper look into the authors, some of their books, in my opinion, and some miscellaneous facts that I found that were pretty interesting. I hope by the end of this presentation that you begin to love and enjoy these authors and these books just as much as I do. Okay, so Stan and Jan Berenstain, those are the two authors of these books. Their full names are Stanley Berenstain and Janice Marion Grant, which then became Janice Berenstain. It was said, so you can see in the top right-hand corner, that's a picture of them when they were younger. It said that when they first met each other, it was love at first sight. So they met in art school, and they had classes together, and they both ended up at one point joining the military. But unfortunately, Stan ended up having to come out of the military because he became blind in one eye. He started working on cartoons within magazines, and he focused those cartoons, and they were centered around like family and children, and eventually Stan joined forces with him and began doing cartoons in the magazines with him as well. Eventually, when they both got out of the military, they got married, and they ended up having a little family. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, that's their family. They had two sons by the name of Leo and Mike. Their sons growing up really loved Dr. Seuss. They were obsessed with those books, and it kind of inspired, that was actually what ultimately inspired them to start creating their own books. They were the illustrators and the authors of their books, so they had a lot of fun with that, and that's what inspired them to start writing. Their first book was called The Big Honey Hunt, and it actually, this is pretty interesting, was edited and published by Ted Seuss, aka Dr. Seuss himself. So I thought that was pretty interesting that not only the person that inspired them to start writing was the person that edited and published their first book. So every parent's dream, and so that's a picture in the left-hand corner of them when they were older. I know a lot of people's, their parents' dream is for their child to follow in their footsteps, and that's exactly what one of their sons, Mike, did. He eventually joined forces with them as well and started illustrating and writing with them, and I thought that was pretty cool. Their books ended up becoming not just only books, but they had cartoons, they had dolls, they had games and clothing. As you can see, their family is very family-oriented, so a lot of their books really focused on family roles and depicted the family life, and a lot of their books are just family-centered and family settings. So here's just a little bit of a collage I made of some of the books. As you can see, some of the titles are Kindness Counts, Trouble at School, Get in a Fight, Visit the Dentist, Forget Their Manners, The Golden Rule, Go for the Teen, Too Much Junk Food, Learn About Strangers, and Go to the Doctor. There are hundreds of books out there, and I think something that's pretty prevalent in all of these books is that all the books are geared towards situations and occasions that kids will encounter. So it's not something that kids won't be able to understand, it's something that these kids are able to put themselves in their shoes and really sit back and understand the story that's being presented. Some other topics are like messy rooms and sleepovers and things like that. I think what's very interesting about that these topics are relevant to the students is that it's an easier way to catch their attention because they understand what's going on. So it makes it more realistic and relatable for children. Another cool thing about these books is that in each book there's an underlying moral or message that you get. What's interesting, what I thought about, is it's not like thrown into your face, and the students don't necessarily know that they're getting taught a lesson or a moral by just reading a book about the doctors, but ultimately in the end they learn something new, which I think is pretty cool. So what I think about is good to bring these books into the classroom is they talk about lessons or tough situations, and it brings about a good way to talk about them. So I think like things such as bullying or kindness or playing with others or manners, there's books on all of those, and I think if that's something that's an issue in your classroom, an easy way to bring about that is to first read this book so it makes it understandable and the kids will know what you're talking about, and then you can go from there. So it allows students to better understand concepts, and when you pair a concept with an illustration, it often makes it much more easier for children to understand. So something interesting that I didn't know about the Berenstain Bear books is they actually have a literacy financial program, and the purpose of this is to introduce financial education to youth. So it exposes age-appropriate money management concepts to kids at a young age, and it shows them the benefit of the books. For example, I showed you, I have a picture on the screen, the Berenstain Bears visit the credit union. I never saw this one myself, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And it says, according to PBS Kids, they entertain and provide literacy experiences, but also expose them to certain topics such as diversity, prejudice, the credit union, and I just thought that was something pretty interesting that they do. So today I'm going to highlight this book, The Jump Rope Contest. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a summary of the beginning of the book, and then I'm going to read you the second half of the book. So in the beginning of the book, Brother Bear, it talks about all these things that he's super good at. So he's good at soccer, he's good at baseball, he's good at football, and it makes Sister feel kind of bad because she doesn't feel like she's as good at things. But then she figures out that she's really good at jump roping, and she's actually better than her brother at jump roping. So throughout the book, she talks about how she's the best and how she wants to show everyone, and then I'm going to read you a little bit. So it talks about in the newspaper how there's this contest, so she decides she's going to join the contest. So Sister said, I'm going to enter that contest and prove that I'm the best jumper in the whole wide world. It's not a good idea to be so boastful, said Mama. Why not? Asked Sister. Because there may be someone who is a better jump roper than you, said Mama. Not a chance, said Sister. Watch this. Then she jump roped so fast that she was a blur. The day of the contest came and all the jumpers were there with their jump ropes. The winner would be the one who jumped the longest. Ready, get set, jump, said the judge. Sister outjumped Lizzie, she outjumped Queenie, and she outjumped Babs. One by one, all the other jumpers jumped out. It looked as if Sister would be the winner. But wait, there was still one other jumper. It was Mr. Frog. Where had he come from? Mr. Frog had hopped out of the woods with his little green jump rope. Now he and Sister were the only ones still jumping, and it was starting to get dark. Sister and Mr. Frog jumped and jumped and jumped. Sister was getting tired. Her legs began to hurt. Her arms began to hurt. She was beginning to hurt all over. Mr. Frog looked as fresh as a daisy. He looked as if he could jump all night and the next day too. Sister looked worried. But Brother had an idea. Keep jumping, Sister, keep jumping, he shouted. It's getting dark. Sister didn't understand what getting dark had to do with anything. What it had to do with was lightning bugs. Lots of lightning bugs were beginning to come out. Mr. Frog just loved lightning bugs. Soon he stopped thinking about jumping and began thinking about lightning bugs. He shot out his long sticky tongue at yummy lightning bugs. But he missed it. His long sticky tongue got tangled in his little green jump rope. Mr. Frog fell to the ground in a sticky green tangle. Sister kept right on jumping. Hooray, Sister wins, shouted everyone. Sister learned a lesson that night. You don't have to be the best in the whole wide world to be a winner. You just have to keep jumping. So what I thought was pretty interesting, I loved the last part where it said you just don't have to be the best to win, you just need to keep jumping. And I thought that would be a good book to bring in the classroom to show that just to be the best doesn't mean you have to be a winner. And I think students need to understand that you're not always going to be the very best at something, but that doesn't mean you're not good at anything. So I thought a good way to bring this into the classroom would just to set up an Olympics type activity. And there would be different activities such as like athletic ability, puzzles, music, drawing, art, and dance. And it just allows for healthy competition, but at the end of the day, everyone will receive participation ribbons, and I just think that would be a good way to tie in this book. So here's some miscellaneous facts. You're going to look at the right-hand corner where it shows Papa, Mama, brother, and sister. So those are the characters, and they're pretty detailed, as you can see. And I just learned a little bit about how much detail they pay attention to when illustrating, because one time they said they got a letter from a child, and she actually said that Sister was missing her bow. And I thought that was pretty interesting because they made a comment. Jan said, children are really good at paying attention, and that's good. So they just talked about how children are paying close attention to detail and how they actually messed up in a book and a child had caught it. In the left-hand side, you'll see the big honey hut, and I thought that was a cool comparison to show you guys how much the illustrations have really progressed. As you can see, the right-hand side is a little bit more detailed than the left-hand side. Something else that's cool about that is Dr. Seuss, like I said, he edited and published that book, and Stan said that not only did Dr. Seuss name our bears, but he named us. So he was the one that actually came up with the idea to name them the Berenstain Bears, to make them a group. And he told Stanley and Janice to actually cut their names to Stan and Jan when they wrote them on the books, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, the Berenstain Bears go to Sunday school. You can tell when their son Mike has been the author of these books because his books are more religious-based. So when the Berenstain Bears pray or when they go to Sunday school, I just thought that was kind of interesting that you're kind of able to tell the difference because of he likes to write about more religious things. Okay, so just a little bit about my opinion. Overall, I'm a big fan of the Berenstain Bear books. They have been books that have been in my life since I was a child. And I thought through all their work, their passion for children and their passion for family and drawing and writing really is prevalent in everything that they do, and I hope that you've been able to see that throughout this whole presentation. I'm going to leave you guys with this quote. It's wonderful to do something you love for so many years. Not everyone has that, and Jan said that herself, and I think that is another quote that just backs up the fact that they're very passionate about their work, and you are ultimately lucky if you're able to do what you love at the end of the day. So here's my works cited, and thank you for listening.